In this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
Yep. But joining me now is one of the few exceptions to Ronald Reagan's sentiments, a government official that is actually part of the solution, South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem. Ma'am, we appreciate you being here.
Well, thank you for phrasing it that way. We are really trying to address a lot of this corruption that's going on in the government and standing for fairness in women's sports here in South Dakota. We passed the strongest bill in the nation to protect that fairness, and I'm shocked by what I see across this country. So I'd be thrilled if they'd address this at the federal issue or federal level, but in the meantime, South Dakota will make sure that our girls get a right to compete and pursue opportunity.
I completely agree, and I want to get back to that real quick, but because of the breaking news we had at the top of the hour, Alvin Bragg, the Manhattan DA attorney, has just said he's suing Jim Jordan, saying, you don't get to know anything about what I'm doing. I get to act on my own. Real quick, what do you make of this?
Well, it's another badge of honor for Jim Jordan. Go get him, Jim. I mean, this guy has constitutional authority to provide oversight, and Jim will do his job with this committee. And Alvin Bragg is so far out of line. I called one of the members of Congress and suggested to them that they file a piece of legislation that when you have someone that is a prosecutor like this, obviously take misuse of action, try to file a federal law violation in state court in their own state, that this person should be disbarred. They should have their license taken away. This is malfeasance in using our criminal justice system, and Congress should pass that bill. We can't allow these prosecutors, DAs, state's attorneys to go forward and just to make up what our criminal justice system is anymore. So Jim and the rest of his colleagues, they've got lots of opportunities to pursue good government bills that would really address what we see Alvin Bragg misusing here in our country.
I sure hope so. All they're asking, I think, for, Governor, is some oversight. But I do want to get back to the transgender issue, because you've been front and center of this. About a year ago, you had actually blocked a bill from the House and then followed up with executive action. There was a lot of pushback, both for and against what you did. Have you seen, as this has developed, I mean, this has rapidly accelerated. 10 years ago, this wasn't even a problem, but in the last year, it's rapidly accelerated. Have you had any chance to change the way you feel about anything? Would you have done anything different then versus now? And how much stronger devoted to this subject are you now than you were a year ago?
Oh my goodness, I years ago, over a decade ago, fought for fairness in girls' sports. The very first attack on fairness for women came in the sport of rodeo. And when I served in Congress back then, I fought to make sure that only girls could be in girls' events. So what I did here in South Dakota was make sure that we had a bill that could withstand a challenge in court. So when my legislature didn't fix a flawed bill, and that would have been overturned in court and would have set us back on protecting that fairness, I made sure I did an executive order till we got the strong language passed that now can withstand any court challenge. So, Carl, that's what happens is if you pass bad legislation and it gets thrown out in court, that sets up a precedent that undermines our entire purpose for creating a place where people can have consistency in their policy that really protects our freedom. So that's what we're doing here in South Dakota. I hope every person who's in a policy-making position cares enough to write good bills that can withstand the court challenges so that we have generational protections for women. The way we've seen women's rights undermined by these liberals and these extremists is wrong, and our girls and our granddaughters will not have a chance to have opportunity in the future if we don't stand up and start governing in a responsible manner.
Governor, that's why you are the exception to Ronald Reagan's rule. I have a 10-year-old daughter, and it's a big problem. I'm worried if she's going to step on a wrestling mat with a guy and get hurt. Yeah. At some point, have you ever had a conversation with some of these people that are on the extreme other side of this and said, what is the end goal here?
Well, the end goal is I think to remake our society. And, there's people that in this transgender discussion that have forgotten that we're all created to serve each other, to love each other, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we pursue policies that create uneven playing fields and that the government comes in and solves all of our problems for us. Ronald Reagan was the one who famously told us not to look to the government to solve all of our problems and our solutions, that they aren't the answer, and that the people need to use common sense and what our founders gave us as an outline for how we protect this country for hundreds of years to come.
Yeah. Well, as I mentioned earlier, Riley Gaines is supporting the Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act, but she's not alone. We had former British swimmer Sharon Davies spoke out with our own Rob Schmidt last night about the very issue. Listen to this.
I'm just a biology believer. I believe that there's a difference between the male and female body, and that in something like sport, where we have a difference between 10 and 30% at Olympic level, and not a single piece of research in the world that can prove we can remove male puberty advantage, that we shouldn't be, allowing women's sport to be sabotaged. It's just not fair that mediocre males are able to come in and beat elite females that have been training for a decade.
Governor, this is not like advanced quantum physics. I mean, guys should compete against guys because we are biologically different, and girls and girls.
It's science. It's science and facts and years of research and study. And it's shocking to me that now we have people standing up and championing, ignoring all of that to pursue an agenda. And that's why we have to keep talking about it, why we have to keep educating the public, and why these stories of girls and women getting hurt is so tragic, because it's unnecessary, and it's to undermine the society and the value system that this country's always had. We are a country of equal opportunity, of people getting the chance to go out there and to make their own future, and we should continue to protect that.
Well, Governor, there's a lot of people who want to do something. When they see folks like you stepping out and doing the work first, they'll get behind you. So, Governor, we appreciate it very much. Kristi Noem.
Thank you. Thank you.